living in her house. You know, she supports, he's a gigolo, a gigolo.
Daddy worked very hard to earn his money, and that it's for me, too. I mean, I want my mother to have a good life and always to be taken care of, but I don't want it to be squandered on an outsider.
She knows nothing about him. You know, she picked him up at the photography gallery.
A crisis can occur at any time in every family. Sometimes an outsider is needed who offers objectivity and direction through counseling. This television program recreates counseling sessions with actors portraying family members. They are guided by a licensed social worker as the crisis counselor, Thom Thompson.
Society has a lot of opinions about who should marry whom. Religion, race, sex, and even wages seem to be a basis for the rules of marriage. One of our strongest taboos is the relationship of an older woman and a much younger man. Yet the relationship of an older man and a younger woman is accepted and in a way encouraged. This is the problem facing Jean Randall and Brian Garrison, who are planning to marry. Bitterly opposing this relationship is Jean's daughter and her older sister. They accuse the young man of using Jean to get at her money.
And I thought someone like yourself might be able to shed a little bit light on the situation and feel that you might be able to help the situation.
As far as I'm concerned, Brian and I don't have a problem. It's my sister and my daughter.
We do not have the problem, Jean.
Well,
You're the one creating it, both of you.
Maybe I should know what the problem is, because I really don't
The
quite
problem
understand.
is
it simply the
Well, it's not
difference
a
in your
problem.
ages?
It's not a problem,
Yes.
it's a situation, and I feel that I'm very happy with it.
It's more than
and
the
that-
difference in their ages. It's more than that.
well,
Goes
I
a
don't
lot
see
deeper.
that at all. The difference in the ages is the only thing that seems to bother you two and doesn't seem to bother the two
Oh,
of us.
no.
Well, let me know what your ages
young
are,
man-
or at least a ballpark figure if we don't want to tell
He
our age.
was 51 years old to begin with, all
And
right?
he
I
is
could have told
22.
him that myself.
Well, you're
yes,
acting-
I'm 51 years old and I'm proud of it.
Well, if you were proud of it, you wouldn't be going around dressed like a floozy.
This isn't dressed as a floozy. It's dressed comfortably, colorfully, if you
I would
will. What's
say
wrong with the little
colorfully.
color?
Brian, how old are you?
I'm 22.
Yes, that's for sure.
You know, she's more than twice his age. Her daughter is older than this young man that she is now living with, and we're very upset about it. The whole thing is just...
We're not upset about it.
How long have you known
feel
about
very-
the relationship?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I said I feel very comfortable with it.
You
We're not
should.
upset.
No.
That's why we wanted to bring you in here to be able to show you a little bit more about our side. We wanted to show you that it isn't as much stuff as you think that's really going on, and all the things that you're really pending up. I thought that we can get out right here and now.
He's living in her house. You know, she supports... He's a gigolo, a gigolo. Why shouldn't I be
How can you
concerned
make a
about my...
decision like that
God.
without knowing any more than apparently you know?
My father has only been dead for 2 years, and she throws herself at the first man that comes along, and one who is after her money, and a young one on top of that. I mean, it's very
I
embarrassing
hardly
for the
threw
family.
myself at him.
Well, that's
How
what
do you
everyone
say
is
that?
saying.
When you say, and a young one on top of that, I know that usually we don't think in terms of older woman, younger
No.
men, but do you personally have a strong feeling about that?
Yes, I do. I find it very embarrassing. I think that, well, I love my dad so much, and I just find this appalling that she would be attracted to someone who is so much younger and less sophisticated, and
So
I
can
mean,
you see
he's
that-
going to get his education and his maturity off of my father's money.
Can you see that it has nothing to do with your father? I'm not taking your mother away
Wait a
from
minute,
you.
I disagree with that, Brian. It does have to do with your father. who you respect and love so much, and I did too. And it's because of that love and respect and wonderful relationship that we had that I'm able to go on to another relationship. If we'd had a lousy relationship, I'd never want to be married again.
Another relationship is fine.
I know.
Okay.
Jean, everyone, we love you. I love you. I want you to be happy.
I love her too.
And I don't want you to be alone
What
for
do
the
you-
rest of your life. But with someone who has some class and can bring something to
Brian
the
is a
relationship.
wonderfully mature man. I've met older
Thank
men
you.
than your father that were less mature than Brian is.
Thank you very much.
June, do you have some special objection other than the age?
Well, the age is one thing, but, well, it's just the whole thing my sister is doing with herself. I mean, for this past year, well, like
If you can't tell, she's just a little jealous. She,
Well, I'm not going to draw any conclusions like that, Brian. I really wanted to find out from June.
Well, I just, it's like my niece says, I mean, Jean has been left very comfortably well off by her husband, you know, and now she's squandering money on this.
It isn't squandering money. It's helping another human being to fulfill his potential.
She knows nothing about him. You know, she picked him up at the photography gallery.
that.
She knows nothing about his background.
You're a photographer, Brian?
yes, sir.
And
I
so
am.
am I. And I'm starting to be a well-known one. And that is how Brian and I met. At a gallery where some of my pictures were being shown. He bought one of my pictures
With
his...
my last dime, Matt, as a matter of
isn't that
fact.
a dear story?
It is
Well,
a
it was
dear story.
interesting.
Well, a little bit. I'm wondering, you may have objections, but usually people don't bring out objections. They simply stand back. They may like what's happening or they may not, but you've taken a lot more active role.
Well,
in
we've always been a very close family.
Why really does it make a difference about age?
Well, I just think that it does. I think that a 51-year-old woman and a 22-year-old boy just do not make, you know, your usual pair.
They're not usual. I'll agree to that.
We're going to live our life together. And if they want to be with us and enjoy our life together, fine.
Well, I don't want
That's
to lose
okay,
my
too.
mother to some
Brian, I
younger
want to
man.
find if you've had any flack from your side. I would
God.
suspect so.
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
say just a little bit about that? I mean, not to bring out more
Well,
problems than
you
there
talk-
are.
Well, a lot of my friends give me, when they say old lady, they mean old lady, you know, that kind of jokes and all that kind of stuff, you know, the saying, you know, my old lady. I get a lot of flack from that from my friends. But
What about
at
relatives
first,
and immediate family for
May
you?
I say something?
immediate family, I'll tell you what, my father's very happy. I've met someone that has broken me down
Young
a little
man,
bit.
speaking of your father, I happen to know a few things about this boy that I don't think my sister is at all aware of. But I have found out some things about this gigolo that I don't think my sister's aware of. For one thing, he's an orphan. I think he's got a mother complex, and that's why he's looking to a woman twice his age.
How do you know anything about Brian?
I had a private investigator look into his background.
You
Because
what?
I had a private investigator look into your background because I do not trust you one bit.
Wait, you may not think that that's what should have been done, but that may work in the advantage of bringing out the truth. Did you find out anything that upset you any more than finding out that
Well, he
was
has
an orphan?
a rather...
What is the problem? What is the
The
problem that you
problem is
cannot
that you
even...
have a rather shady background, young man, that I don't think my sister knows anything
No,
about.
I don't think that's a problem. I think the problem is you. I think that you are a jealous bitch.
I want feelings to be expressed without names, but in fact you called him a gigolo several times, so you've traded off.
Yes.
I'm not going to call any names. Express feelings at the highest and the deepest level, but
Well, this young man has some
Boy.
things that maybe he ought to let my sister know about, so she's aware of
well,
just what she's getting
then let's
into.
handle this another way. Brian, can you deal with what she's referring to? And I don't have any
Yeah,
idea.
but I'd like to put that in the past. I don't see what that's got to do with right here and right now.
Well, it's just being an orphan.
What's wrong with being
It is more than being an orphan. He has a little bit of a history
So
that's
what?
just a little shady.
So what?
Maybe you'd
Haven't
like
you
to
ever
tell
done
her
anything?
yourself.
Have you ever done anything that you have regretted later in the future?
Nothing
like maybe
that I
get
would have
married
to.
at a very young age, or maybe not looked at a younger man, or maybe, just maybe,
But
being
she
a lot
doesn't
jealous.
have a record.
I don't have anything that
So
I have
what?
to hide.
What do you mean your record?
Well,
Yes.
What, you parked the car, you didn't pay your traffic tickets?
it was something a little
deal.
bit more serious than that when I was a lot younger. had to do with some drugs, and that's in the past now. It was when I was going to college.
Oh, it's easy for you to
and I
minimize
had
it.
to-
It's easy for you to minimize it.
I believe he was arrested.
That's true. That's very true. And I paid for my crime, and
What do you mean you paid for your crime?
I did a couple months in
He has
jail
been in
there.
prison. And this is the
But-
kind of a man that you bring into your home.
Well, as long as you've opened this up,
I had to
let's-
survive, young
Let's
lady.
open it up the rest of the way.
Yes, and now you had
Since
to
you did
survive.
find out from a private detective, did you find out that he continued in that pathway, or?
I did not.
But let's find out from the person that hired the detective.
Well, the detective didn't say that he was doing that at the present time, but that he...
But you would have learned that if he had been doing that, wouldn't you? I'm only saying that since you brought it up, you ought to listen to what the person that you hired, the detective, told
Yeah.
you.
I just feel that my sister should know what type of young man she's getting involved with, what kind of a background he has, and...
You know, in a way that it's great that, you know, I'm calming down a little bit now. And in a way, it's great that you have that much love for your sister, that you were so concerned about her that you did all these things. But I'm concerned about her, too. Okay?
Oh, you're so smooth. My goodness.
Let's run the focus a little way the other
Uh-huh.
direction.
All of a sudden, I'm
What
a
is
bad
life
guy.
like for you? Gail, is it?
Yes. I have a nice life. I like my life. I love my husband. We have a sweet baby.
You have a new
2 years.
child?
Yes. We have a little
Oh,
boy,
I thought
2
it was
years
smaller
old,
than that.
Jimmy.
Mhm.
No. And I'm not going to raise her grandchild in this kind of an environment. I won't bring Jimmy to her home.
It's a shame.
In what kind of environment? What exactly do you mean? It's as if we're talking about something and then there's something beneath that.
Well, it's just so embarrassing. I mean, she just has thrown herself at the first man that comes along. I mean, it's like she's a sex-starved
Oh,
widow,
God.
and it's very
Is
embarrassing.
part of the
to me.
embarrassing part that she is marrying someone, if she's thinking of doing that, that is an age mate of yours? Have you thought about that you may be...
Boom. Just hit the nail on the head.
Well, but let me do that, Brian.
Okay, but I just feel that's been a problem that I wanted to bring out. And
Because as someone else might look at it, they might link the two of you together instead of the two of you. Is that what's making you uncomfortable?
Well, some friends have said, my God, he's more your age than hers.
But in fact, you are happily married. Can't your
Yes, I
mother
am.
make a choice the way you made yours? I don't want to sound like I am siding with them or with her, but I guess what counselors think more than anything else is that people should be relatively free, especially in selecting a mate. You wouldn't want that kind of interference, and I can tell, hearing you, that you wouldn't brook that kind of interference from anyone in your life, would you?
Well, I don't live the kind of life my sister has chosen to live this past year. My life has been rather more conventional.
Well, maybe you should try it now and then. It's not that bad. It's wonderful.
You have
What
to
are you-
forget that I've been married for 35 years to the same man. I'm not running around looking for youngsters to bed up with.
But you yourself have thought over the objections. One of the ones that you just mentioned a while ago, and then we just went right on and didn't deal with it, was money. Is money part of the objection that
Yes.
you have?
Yes,
If
it
so,
is.
let's bring it out and deal with it.
Well, it is as far as I'm concerned, because I feel that Daddy worked very hard to earn his money, and that it's for me, too. I mean, I want my mother to have a good life and always to be taken care of, but I don't want it to be squandered on an outsider. I want something left, and I don't mean to sound selfish.
This is
But-
not so strange that she would be having this consideration,
Well,
is
she's
it?
entitled, you know,
Well,
her
she-
father. Certainly she's entitled to part of her father's money.
I know that Daddy meant it that way. I mean, it should be...
Did he so state in a will?
No, but,
In fact,
His-
though, do you think that he might have meant it that way, that a portion of that
course.
money would...
Yes, I do. And I have no intention of squandering my money. I'm certainly a level-headed person. I'm not a senile old hag like you seem to think I should be.
I
May
didn't say you were a senile old hag, but you're
know
not
exactly
angry.
what I'm doing.
You're
I'm
just
not,
being
I'm a
used. That's-
mature
you're
woman.
Well,
just
may I
being
bring up
used.
something that you may not have heard about before? And when you first hear about it, I'll kind of warn you, it might sound even strange, but it might be an answer to everybody's objection. have you heard at all of an idea called a prenuptial contract?
Yes.
Yes,
Of course.
yes, I've heard of
yes,
them.
I have.
Have you heard of that, Brian?
Yes, I've heard of them.
In a prenuptial contract, you can state, and it can be worked out with lawyers, what you will do with the money and what kind of division of money would be used. And I don't pretend now to know the law on this, and I don't think you should listen to me on this. You should listen to a lawyer on it,
Right.
and you would need that kind of help. I can't give you that kind of help, but I can at least raise it for you to consider that if you did, and I think you do that not with them in mind. I mean, well, you do it perhaps with them in mind, but they don't even have to be in on that. That's something between the two of you. But it is a prenuptial contract that can state how the money is to be used, and even it can state what would be the division of property if you did not stay together.
He doesn't seem too happy about that.
No,
Well, let him have some first and
we
second
haven't
thoughts
talked about this, and so it's really kind of unfair for me to be voicing what I want to say without speaking for us in this situation, because that's actually what we're talking about. But my own feeling is that I think that is wrong. I feel that
Yes,
Yes, I would.
Well, give him
Yes,
a
of
chance
course
to say
you
why he
would.
thinks it's wrong.
I feel it's wrong because it's a matter of trust. I think it's a matter of willingness to give and share. I think that you can, it's in black and white, and that's not, to me, something that
Certainly
can
is.
be done.
You
You
give
change
me
from day to day.
Any reason why I
your
should
values
trust you?
and things go from day to
Let-
day,
let
and I
me
feel that,
at
yes,
least
go ahead,
inform you
I'm
about something, that even if you don't have a prenuptial contract, the state in which you're living divides property on a 50-50 basis. So in fact, there is something already, you may not have even known it, in black and white
Yeah.
from the state legislature. So this kind of black and white is at least black and white that you choose. But I want to ask a question. Suppose they continued their relationship. Suppose they decided to get married, and suppose they did agree, both of them, to a prenuptial contract. Would that change your mind? Do you see, Brian is not the only one who has difficulty.
I would be slightly more comfortable because I would feel that that area was protected.
And June, would it change you in any way?
No. I think that the situation is not good for my sister in any way, shape, or form. And that is all there is to it. I mean, the money, I'm concerned about her squandering her money, but I'm concerned about her being, her life. And I
Is
just
that
don't
cut and
see
dry,
that,
that cut and dry. No
that-
way, no possible way.
I just don't see that
Closed
this
mind, closed door, bye-bye, that's it.
person can bring my sister anything but just,
How can you deal with that, though? You are taking away, are you not, your sister's power of choice here?
well, she has a power of choice. She's always had the power of choice. She's always had her own way.
But
From
does
the
she,
beginning,
does
she's
she have
always
to
had her own way.
choose, in choosing Brian, does she have to think that she's going to lose you?
She won't lose me. I care for my sister very much.
Jean, do you hear that? You're not going to lose her on the basis of your choice.
No, I don't hear that.
Wait, she just said that. She
But I
said,
don't hear that in her voice.
I must admit that I didn't either, but let her say it first, even without the feeling of conviction. Hear her at least moving a little that she's going to allow you that power to finally make your choice. She's sitting here today, as people often do, voicing the objection. She's hired the private detective. She, in fact, found out something that troubled her, but she found out that the young man was, I'm talking about you as if you're not present.
That's right.
She found out that Brian does not have a problem currently.
I just think the whole thing is wrong. Of course I care for my sister. I mean, I was the one who was with her day after day after day that first year after Ed died. I mean, I was there
That's
daily.
why I
Do you
don't
remember that?
understand. Yes, I do. That's why I don't understand how she can be that uptight about it. If I say he makes me happy and you're thinking of my happiness.
I think that this is a new toy for you. I remember when we were kids. I mean,
Closed door.
she wrapped my
Wait,
dad.
Brian, it may not be a closed door.
She wrapped Mother and Daddy around her finger. I mean, you know, she was the baby of the family. She had everything she wanted whenever she wanted it.
Is it that she's now get something? Is it that she's now getting something that she wants again that troubles you?
Well, I just
Like
think,
maybe her happiness?
no, I want her to be happy. Of course I want her to be happy. I just think that this is not going to bring her happiness. This is a current, a new toy that'll be tossed aside. You will toss her aside is what I'm afraid of.
At the beginning of today's show, I asked who makes rules about who should marry whom. And as you saw in today's show, the reasons against an older woman marrying a younger man were based mainly on suspicions, jealousies, and rules. Rules that seem to come from generations of society's opinions. Perhaps society sees the older age partner as being dominant, and such a marriage as planned by Jean Randall and Brian Garrison doesn't fit. During the past few years, however, the idea that age and sex should be defined as dominant or submissive is changing. In the case of Jean and Brian, I don't even think it's part of the issue. What is important are the needs of the two people involved. For reasons that perhaps Brian hasn't necessarily defined, he is attracted to Jean Randall. He needs what she has to offer him as a companion and wife. For Jean, Brian perhaps represents the things in life that are important to her as well. So, to the neighbors and relatives such as Gail and June, and anyone else, I think that's all that should be important, the needs of the couple. When people in your life are making serious decisions, you should discuss your concerns. Obviously, this depends on your relationship with the people involved, but when a decision is made, the healthiest contribution any relative or friend can make is to be supportive. Through such support, we can all have health, love, and growth in your family and in mine. I'm Thom Thompson.